we found out this 9-year-old young girl had been raped by a 35-year-old man. And then the old man went to the child's grandmother and tried to give her a goat so they can settle it out of court.
Wesley Jackson Kaguri, the founder of Nyaka, explains why and how the sexual and gender-based violence program started in southwestern Uganda.
So we had a nanny here who is from the village, and we are talking about it, and she said, "Oh, I know a girl in our village whose father actually sleeps with her." And she named the girl. We investigated, found out Elizabeth had been sexually assaulted by the father for 7 years, from when she was 7 until she was 14.
Jackson also shares the hardships Nyaka faced while constructing Nyaka Vocational Secondary School.
As soon as we started building the 3 stories, a bridge that connects Rukunjiri and Kanungu fell. Now materials that were coming from there to come doubled in prices to transport. Whew! We hired 7,000 people, Matt, and we ran out of money.
Jackson also talks about the role his mother played while launching the Grandmothers Program and the impact she has had on his life.
She told me, "Jackson, you are God's child. Do not even take credit on anything you accomplish. This is God's work." You've heard me talk about this in staff meetings. We can celebrate, we can do this. This work is not about us. It's beyond.
One thing I want to explore more on your process that starts with, again, of course, your birth all the way through this whole process. And the last topic, we're talking about the Grandmothers Program and the local culture there, but it's your mother, Janet Kaguri. Can you tell us about her and how she influenced you and therefore influenced Nyaka?
Yes, I can. My mom, Janet Kaguri, passed away at 94 years of age in 2020. And I always tell the community in Nyaka, when I speak about grandmothers, that's the grandmother right there. But for me, I'm privileged also to call her mother. She raised all 5 children, worked so hard in the most difficult circumstances to make sure we go to school. We shared a fifth of a pencil. Mom never went to school, but the urge for all her children to go to school was so big that she pushed my father under difficult circumstances to make sure we all get to school. I will tell you something so personal. When I started writing books, A School for My Village, The Price of Stone was the first book. I signed one and gave it to my mom. At the time, mom was already, her back was so bad, she laid down flat. You remember all the visits when you met mom that she was laying down. But each time when I wrote the first one, I gave her a copy and I told her, "Mom, this is your book. Here's your picture. Look where you are. You are in the book." And she would lay down there without knowing how to read and turn pages of that book. Then I wrote children books. Now she has illustrations. And mom turned the pages of those books, all 5 books I published. The last one she didn't see about COVID. But the 4, Sitwe goes to school, Sitwe goes to worship, Maliza goes to Kampala, and Maliza goes for water. She turned pages on that book every single day, watching pictures. When you came as a visitor, she would say, "Oh, here are the books my son has written." The pride of a mother was so deep. And I have 2 sons. I always tell them, "Look, you can do anything in this world. You can't change the person who brought you to this world." They are both exes, but I make sure that my children have that value of their mothers. Nicholas and Nolan are the sons, Tali and Tessa. Tabitha is their mother, you know them. And we have this conversation. The girls now get mad. Oh, Mom did this, took my phone. I said, As your mother, you can never exchange one, or your father, the same thing. My mom was so instrumental. She was a prayerful woman. Matt, people will say things about their mothers, how they were raised. Mom never yelled in her life. I never saw her angry, even when my dad abused her and kicked her out of the house, would be running behind her or crying, going, You should leave him. And she would turn around and say, He's your father. We pray for him. Prayer was her number one solution to every problem. I took some people, agonistic people who don't believe in anything, and mom would just touch you and start praying. And they would say, What is she doing? I said, She's praying for you. But I don't pray. I said, Just give her an opportunity to do what she's doing. She's even doing it in local language. But the prayers would be, bless this guest who's come from far away to check on us. Bless the driver who's taking them around. Bless the teachers who are going to hang around. Don't let them get sick. Do you know we have had more than 1,200 visitors to Nyaka, and nobody has ever had sickness that is so terrible they can't leave. Except when Harvard people came recently and Karen had a sciatic muscle that we had to lift her from Chi. There had never been an issue. And I always say, it's my mom's prayers. She prayed for everybody. She told me, Jackson, you are God's child. Do not even take credit on anything you accomplish. This is God's work. You've heard me talk about this in staff meetings. We can celebrate, we can do this. This work is not about us. It's beyond. You can call them God, you can say Buddha, you can call them Muhammad, whatever higher power. Our board member Josh and I always joke he has a tortoise. He says, That's my higher power. I wake up and tell my tortoise all my problems. And he looks at me and I feel better because I have put them on him. Not now they are out of me. Mom was a prayer warrior. She loved unconditionally. She never yelled or got angry at anybody. Her sisters, her brothers will tell you the same. She demonstrated what is possible to live an amazing life. 2 days ago, I was speaking to a donor who turned around and cursed me because he was not happy with something we were talking about. And the first thing that came to my mind is, I don't know who raised you. But for me, the person who raised me cannot let me speak to another human being with such a disrespect and names like asshole. The man called me an asshole. And I just laughed and said, and the person who heard it said, Oh my God, Jackson, how do you feel? I'm like, I'm all right. I'll pray for him. That's his problem. It's not my problem. I know for sure I'm not an asshole. And even if he thought it, to say it in an email, in writing, and then he said, with love, oh my goodness, human beings. So mom raised us so well. We are tight with my sisters who are alive now. Mom lived a legacy. She got to see 15 grandchildren. By the time she died, she saw 12 great grandchildren. My sisters and I are so close because of mom's memory, and she will forever. This world is not the same without mother in it, but the things she did to us, Nyaka really was put there also in honor of her grandmother's program. She was not one to receive money from them, but she attended meetings. She had her uniform, and her legacy continues to be so deep in us. Uh,
Well,
Amazing.
yeah, I feel privileged to meet her. I felt her love always, and it was always a highlight visiting Uganda and giving her a hug, seeing her smile. The first year I went to Uganda in 2015, there was a classroom at the secondary school dedicated to her. And Yeah, we talked about the inception of Nyaka Primary School, then Katumba Primary School, and the third and final school was Nyaka Vocational Secondary School. What inspired you to expand beyond the primary schools and offer this secondary school and offer vocational services and to to build the most beautiful school in the whole area? What kicked that off?
I call that place, since now I've gone to Harvard, I can actually say this with authority. I call it the Harvard of Uganda. When the first classroom graduated, we sent those students to Ishaka Adventist Secondary School, which is in a different district. Number one, my sister lived there, and we wanted her to keep an eye on these children since she's been involved in Nyakan. She's a teacher by profession. I was raised Adventist. I'm still Adventist. And I knew Adventist education also has a special teaching and training for students. But remember, these are 12, 13-year-olds going out to a boarding school. Nyaka had raised them with this holistic approach. They're staying with grandmothers. They have a farm. They're eating 2 meals a day. They have clean water right there. You don't have to boil it. They are living in a community where everyone is looking out for them and supporting them. When I was growing up, and even when these children were younger, it is changing now. Every adult is in charge of you. So they find you messing up, they will correct you. They don't even have to tell your parents. And if you tell your parents that somebody corrected you, then they will correct you again because you showed bad behavior to the community. So the children of Nyaka were also part of the society and looked at that way. When they go to secondary school in a different community, food is not as consistent, it is not as nutritious. Now, some of our students are running away from dormitories to find mandazi, the scones they eat. Some are stealing food. Like desperate, they became different children altogether. They struggled. And we realized as an organization, again, with the people in the community, Agaba's dad and Sempa's dad, who were in the committee, said, we sent them out early. We had sheltered them, raised them a certain way, and now they're exposed in different ways. That's why they are revolting the way they are. So I started thinking, we have the library. Around the library, we had bought more land, which we were planning to farm. Maybe we should put together a plan and build a secondary school. And I didn't talk about who built the library. And I was looking through pictures. Yesterday was like retro looking in pictures. That library, the clinic was built, launched with one of Justice Ogola came and helped us do that. The library came as a result of Ilana having a conversation with Jim and his wife, Jim Martin out of Toronto. His wife, Jim's wife, loved books. And Jim, and I say this because when Jim came to Uganda to visit the kids, he said, you need to thank my wife. She's the one who loves books, and that's why we built a library. So Jim Martin and his wife out of Toronto, Brew Lupin Library, that's why it is called Brew Lupin, are the ones who built that entire campus of our library. So Jim understood and loved, and the Brew Lupin is a plant. When the wind comes, it has like small seeds that have like a cotton on it, so wind just spreads it. So this couple and their children wanted children to put reading as a priority and spread the reading culture, just like lupin seeds are spread around. So thank you, Jim, and Linda, your wife, and your children for investing. And then they also built another one at Kutamba Primary School. So the secondary school was built to shelter, to give more protection and love and guidance to our children so that by the time they finish senior 4, they are a little bit older and now they can go in high school, which is senior 5 and senior 6. So I will tell you a quick story, and Ronnie Simon is going to hear this because at the time we started this is one of Janice Simon's legacy, because when I brought the idea, and then for me, I don't dream small, and then showed them the rendition of what we were planning. Engineer Julius Bajira, who worked with me, and also Sam, who drew the plan. They all said to me, "There's no way you can build this. This is too big. It's too many buildings, lots of concrete, and no, you cannot do this." Then I came to the board and told the board what we were thinking, what the community had recommended. And Ronnie Simon, being a builder he was, I told Barry Siegel. Barry Siegel gave me a check as a seed money to start building of 150,000 US dollars. We went to Jim Martin, who had built a library, and he gave us 300,000 in 3 installments of 100 through Stephen Lewis Foundation. Beautiful World Canada, which has educated all our students in secondary school and high school and college, also threw in 50,000 US dollars. Then we as a family threw in 50 to name a classroom after our mother. A donor, Kathy, out of UK, threw in 50,000 and named the classroom after Freda Biaurachiria. Then Janice Simon, Ronnie Simon said to me, in addition what Sigo Family Foundation is doing, I and my children want to honor Janice and name a classroom after her. So Lee, Philip, Kerry, and Matt put in money and raised 50,000 extra. If somebody is doing math, you can see how we are raising this money really fast. And we launched, but Ronnie Simon said to me, "Jackson, I've been in construction for many years. Until you have 50% of the fundraising goal, do not, and I repeat, do not open up the ground to start building." I said, "Ronnie Simon, you need to trust me. I'm from Uganda. That's not how things work. I have experience, all licenses. Do you have this?" I said, "Yeah, we have that. Environmental license, building plans, all approved, Kambuga City Council. No, but you need 50,000. You need 50%. So I disagreed with him, which is rare for us to disagree. I said, "Nope, we are going to do it our way. Uganda way, not American way." And we did. He kept quiet, but he didn't approve. Told Janice, "This is not going to do. It's not going to do." As soon as we started building the 3 stories, the big classroom with a 4-story building, a bridge that connects Lukunjiri and Kanungu fell. Now materials that were coming from there to come doubled in prices to transport. Whew! The money we had, remember the pledge from Toronto was coming 100,000 each year, not all at once, 300,000. Now I started going, doubts. Ronnie told me, "What am I going to do? Oh my God, it's going to fail." And these things started falling apart after we had poured half of the roof, the first floor. We hired 7,000 people, Matt. Because labor, is no cranes. We had to build like a walkway from down to up, take a wheelbarrow push. And if you are pouring concrete for a floor, you have to pour it all in a few days. If possible in one day, but because we didn't enough labor, at least 2-3 days, so cement can all. And we ran out of money. And Ronnie Simon's voice kept haunting me. I went to Tori Dito and said, "Tori, we're expecting money in 3 months. We don't have money to pour concrete. I would like you to advance me money from Dito partners and as soon as it comes, we'll pay it back. No problem, Jackson. No signing, nothing. Trust-based philanthropy. She sent us money, we poured the whole concrete. Few years later, since you were there, we are opening the school. Jenna Simon is there, friends from DC, the Terry Kramers, the Leahs. We are all there. We are happy. Kids are there. Tabitha is there. They are running around. And Ronnie Simon stood out to give his speech. That's the only time he actually went to Nyaka. He said, when Jackson told me he was going to build this school, I told him no. I knew and I was sure, based on my experience, it was not going to be possible. And by the way, now we had built the classrooms. Richard Siegel donated a computer lab building. Lisa Green, also Genesis' sister, did a lab. Who else did something else? So different things, vocational, everything, all put together, grants to put laboratories in, biology, science, physics, dormitories, everybody. Ron Simon goes, I did not believe it was going to be possible, but Jackson did it, and I now believe there is a God, and I don't believe in God. And now I know and believe there is a God, and that God loves Jackson. And that God loves you, the community of Nyaka, to have your own son advocating for you to build something this beautiful. He turned around and kissed Janice in front of the entire community. People still talk about it because really people don't kiss in public in Uganda in the village. And I framed that picture and gave it to Ronnie Simon and Janice as a gift. The legacy continues. This past year, I was so honored to take Janice, Lee, the first son, their first oldest son, Jordan, his wife, and their two grandchildren of Ronnie Simon and Janice, Thomas and Jacob. And they built a grandmother house. They saw what their great grandfather envisioned, what their grandmother put so much time in, and Thomas is a junior board member of Nyaka, so the legacy continues. So when I say legacy book, I'm not only talking about children of Nyaka seeing the legacy. It's been a legacy for our funders, our volunteers, the people we started working with. I was looking at the pictures the other day, and so I was at the wedding of Brian and Maury, Carol, oldest, and now the children are coming to Uganda soon. Carol and their daughter Sarah, the ones who introduced me, Chelsea Clinton, ended up at Clinton Global Initiative. Sherry, who we talked about today, who introduced us to New York Marathon, and now 2018 to now we are going to have 25 runners, the highest number. People have raised so much money. It's been 25 years of joy, 25 years of worry on my part that maybe we won't make it next year. But again, I always remind myself this is not about me. This is God's work, and He will provide. He's still providing. Look at us.
I love it. I love the you shared about Ronnie and that story with the secondary school. And if I remember correctly, when we were there celebrating that secondary school opening, he also was like, all right, now we need to build a high school. So
Don't count it out. Recently, anonymous donor here in Michigan gave us money to build extra dormitories for girls. The moment we have enough money, 250,000 to build extra dormitories for boys, we launch high school, senior six and senior. The room to go in the classroom is there. The where to sleep is the issue that we need to solve.
And that 2015, with the opening of the secondary school, which was the third and final school for now, and all the holistic parts of human needs were met. And then something happened that year, which forced Nyaka to expand even further to protect children so that they can learn, grow, and thrive. So can you tell us what happened that year and what's developed for that program?
2015, Professor Amy Sach out of Shenandoah University was visiting with a group of students, actually not students, group of other professors trying to see synergies of Shenandoah University and Nyaka. At the time, I was married to Tabitha. We were both there. Tabitha has a story where, as a child, she was sexually assaulted at 12 years old. And she had already been working. Her master's was in that area. We had already begun her schooling to do a PhD. So she was knowledgeable on that subject. Amy Such goes in Nyaka Primary School, works with the girls and asks them, what are you scared of in your daily activities? And one girl writes in red on a paper that she's scared of rape with a red pen. And again, that evening we are talking, we are at the cottages, and Amy brings up the subject, and we ask our senior staff member, who was Lydia Agaba, to spend some time with that girl and find out if she had been raped or somebody attempted. And she said, no, I've just heard about it and I don't want it to happen to me. So that's why I wrote it. Oh, why did you use red? Oh, that's the only pen I had. But that opened up, we need to have conversations about this subject. Next day, and Tabitha was there, I think Par from our church, Bethel Church, was also there. Next day, when we went to Kutamba, I started with that with the staff members. At Nyaka, we had this conversation, and we want to make sure we have it with our girls here. And one of the teachers said, oh, you mean a rape? And I say, yeah, there's a girl in the classroom, the 9-year-old who was raped, and she's actually here. Said it nonchalantly, like it is not such a big deal. And Tabitha broke out and started crying and said, what? Said, yeah. Said, can I go speak to the girl? So that trip opened up another obstacle that we as an organization had not addressed or even thought about. Until that point, if somebody has said to me, Jackson, people rape children in your community, I would have said, there's no way that happens. Come on. But we found out this 9-year-old young girl had been raped by a 35-year-old man. And then the old man who raped this child went to the child's grandmother and tried to give her a goat so they can settle it out of court. What that grandmother did, thanks to the grandmother program, said to him, admit what you did, and then I will forgive you. But she recorded it on a small Nokia phone. We asked the grandmother later what happened. Do you report? She said, I went to report, and a police officer said they cannot open a case unless I pay 30,000 Uganda shillings. That's $12. Like, what? Yep. So we went and asked the police. They said, yeah, that's the policy. So we launched the program. At the time, we called it EJA. Tabitha's mom was called Edith. She passed away, bless her heart. My mom was Janet, so it was a combination of both. And we launched the program to fight against rape culture in the community. But then later we expanded it to fight against gender-based violence. And since then, Matt, the program has been happening in the area. We have opened healing centers in hospitals. We have worked with police officers to document, translated police reports to allow grandmothers to understand the language. We have hired social workers and counselors to work with children who are sexually assaulted. We call them victors because we don't want them to feel like victims. We came back to United States. We had a nanny here who is from the village, and we are talking about it, and she said, "Oh, I know a girl in our village whose father actually sleeps with her." Like, what? Yep. And she named the girl. We investigated, found out Elizabeth had been sexually assaulted by the father for 7 years, from when she was 7 until she was 14. When they attempted to arrest the man, he had a powerful person in a brother. The brother kept fighting to keep him out of jail. In the brother's mind, he doesn't take responsibility of the other family. Unbeknownst to this powerful person, his own daughter had been sexually assaulted by that uncle who was now assaulting his own child. And that person, if we found out because she became a volunteer, and I kept asking her, "Why are you volunteering when you have a full time job?" And eventually she told us. And when the father, that powerful man, found out, that's when he gave his blessings. "Oh, he did it to my daughter? Then he needs to go in jail and rot there." But because we were able to protect our children and put these perpetrators in jail, students, children, survivors attended school. I want to say peacefully, but the mental health that comes with it is so deep. But at least not seeing the person who hurt them and now walking around in the community, taunting them, calling them names. We've been able to put more than 220 perpetrators in jail. We started a walk against gender-based violence. The first walk was in 2018 or 17, 2017. We brought in performers from Kampala to raise awareness. We involve police, prosecutors, construction workers, teachers. The entire community comes together for fight one cause that is more mental, that is so harming to society. We encourage grandmothers to talk about it. We encourage grandfathers, men who know the community, some who are the fathers of these perpetrators, not to protect them, because if it happens to one of the kids, it will happen to another one. And the program continues to go strong. Every July, 3rd Friday of July, we have had these in Chi, we have had them in Rukunjiri, we have had them in Kambuga. Now we have expanded our programs into Rubanda, Ruchiga, and in the future in Soroti. We will also have them there to raise awareness, to do advocacy, and to let everybody know this is not going to be tolerated, and we'll do it together to eliminate. But when it happens also for society to know, just because somebody is a survivor, they are not written off as failure, as oh, they did something, that's why the perpetrator did it. It is all psychotherapy, social work, all together in building a society to be stronger.
Yes, very powerful. And so that completes the Nyaka programs that address our mission. Everything's continuing to grow and expand. In the past, since 2018, we've had the privilege to be involved with the New York City Marathon. So on a lighter note, I want to share that fun story of how it got started and what it's become for Nyaka.
Yes, so like I said, we planted mustard seeds and the trees have grown, branches have gone, seeds have been spread all over the world. One of those fun stories in 2015, the same year when we launched EDGA, I was selected as Wisely's Global Citizen and got an award in Central Park. I think that's the last year where the awardee got got on stage in front of more than 60,000 people in the Central Park. Beyonce was performing, Jay-Z was there, Ed Sheeran, Coldplay, all these big bands. Michelle Obama, Biden was the vice president at the time. It was a huge event. So I was selected by vote uh, and got 100,000 US dollars from Alex Weisleys out of Australia to actually finish the second school we were building at the time. During that event, sponsors are gathering, we are done, we have a private event at Momo Museum in Manhattan, New York. Beautiful. The reception, we have finished the Central Park, all dignitaries are invited. When we are leaving the tent, I met a man called Mark Mahoney. Mark Mahoney and Noel Mahoney were co-sponsors. They had started a Green Dot company, and that Green Dot was a co-sponsor of the event in Central Park. Mark says, "Oh my goodness, Jackson, that was brilliant. We spoke so well. Your work is interesting. I want to know more about it." Katie, Noel's sister, was also there, and her husband. Say, "Are you going to Momo?" Like, yes. Walkable distance from Central Park, we took a walk. And we got to the Momo. Before even Mark, I continue with Mark's story. A guy, bless his heart, he's just passed away, Scott Miner, who was at Guggenheim Financial Services and had been on stage with me as a co-sponsor who introduced me before Alex Wesley got on stage. Asked me, I said, "Jackson, so you've won 100,000? Like, yep. What are you going to do with it?" I said, before I even get to where I do with it, I'm going to try tonight, find somebody to match that 100,000 so it can be 200,000. I said, "Ha, ha, 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 ha. Oh, how are you going to do that?" I said, "Scott, actually, you can do it. You can match that money." Uh, and he laughed and said, "You are serious?" I said, "Yeah." "Why did you ask me?" And "I'm serious. Would you consider matching the money?" I said, "Oh, Jackson." I looked around, his personal assistant looks at me and whispers to me and said, he could because his private jet, the chairs in private jet is not, art money doesn't buy even one chair in his private jet. So I got close and said, "Scott, please." And he goes, "I tell you what, send me all your financials for 3 years in a row, audited financials. And if I'm satisfied with what I see, I will match the money." 200,000 in one night. It has never happened again in a global citizen history for one winner to get 200,000 in one night. So Scott agrees. Definitely, I followed up and we got that money. But Mark Mahoney and I and Noel are now hanging out, talking about this work. We stayed in touch. And Mark told me he has an apartment in New York and also in Charleston. And he goes between, he had sold his company. So I asked him later, like, "Would you mind joining a board, Nyaka board?" I said, "Jackson, I don't like meetings, but I know what board members do." He had been a board member at Duke University, but had never served on non-profit boards. So he went in his building and found Sherry Henry, who he trusted and knew she had been in non-profits, and said, "I need advice how to be a board member." Sherry Henry is now in California healing, embraced Mark Mahoney and Noel Mahoney and said, told them everything about being a non-profit lead board member and said, "But the story of grandmothers you're telling me is so touching. As a grandmother, I want to meet this man, Jackson Kaguri." And Sherry Henry, next time I went to New York, Mark organized a meeting at a small hotel, invited Sherry Henry. This was, I think, around December 2017. 17. Camila, my cousin, was there, and we all went to this small meeting where Mark is introducing people to Nyaka. Asked me to speak, I spoke. But when I was done speaking, Sherry said, I have several questions for you. She's an interviewer. She's a journalist who worked on PBS for a long time. She was the head of Women for Democracy for Hillary Clinton. Amazing, dynamite woman, and so much love. Sherry asked me several questions, and towards the end says, have you ever, Charles Nyaka, ever applied to become a New York Marathon partner? Like, no, we have not. Can we do that? That's something said, oh, I think the deadline is passed because we both now went and looked. There were two other people who were there who ended up Donovan and his girlfriend, one of the Hoovers, who had been invited to come to that small meeting. So Sherry said, I know the chairperson of New York Marathon, George Hash. We go way back. I will ask him if Nyaka can apply. Sherry went back and asked George. George said the deadline was in May. May 2017 for people who are going in 18. But Sherry being Sherry, George said, I would make an exception and give you 5 runners for 2018. Sherry calls me, Jackson, guess what? George Hash has approved Nyaka to be New York Marathon. We have these conditions. Person must raise $4,000, must finish, and 5 people. You think you can get 5 people? When Mark had 5 people, he asked Donovan and Hoover, 2 of them, if they can be some of the 5. They said yes. Mark called another Mark Simra, out of Charleston, who actually made shoes, recyclable shoes, and Mark accepted to run. That is now 3. I talked to Danny Harrington, Barry Seagull's grandson. Danny, who has become such a good friend, he said, I will do it, but I will also want to do it with my wife, Erin. But we didn't have a 6th spot, but she could run side by side with him. So it ended up being Donovan, Hoover, Mark Simra, Danny. Who was the 5th one? The other one.
With Sarah Garrett and Arrington McCoy. Yeah, we had the 5 slots, but a few other runners ran on our behalf.
Yeah, we had the 5 throats. Yes, Sarah was there. Alison came the following year. So it was those 5. Sarah, who is married to Garrett, the grandson of Sherry Henry. So 2018, we launched Sherry and Nowhere, worked with our staff members in Michigan, started organized the party on Friday. We got the spin owner to give us space at the time to have a Friday party. People trained. 2018, we had our 5 runners start, finish. They all raised more than 4,000 US dollars. And since then, we have had runners in New York Marathon. New York Marathon has invited me to speak at their charity breakfast. Thank you, New York Marathon. Thank you, George Hash. Thank you, Christine Bach, who works on this. And a few years ago, we finally said this thing can only work if we have a committed Nyaka staff member to work with our extraordinary volunteers. They were this close to actually quit being volunteers and hand it to us. That's when we asked you, Matt Stable, to be the coordinator and work with Mama Sherry. I call her Mama Sherry because one time she said, since you don't have a mother in the USA, I'll be your mother. And I accepted. and she accepted. Mama Sherry, Noel Mahoney, and Mark Mahoney. Mark served on the board for all his term and committed to coordinate New York Marathon. He puts in so much money, puts up her time. We escort runners to the train, go and meet the runners on between 7 and 8 mile. New York Marathon became a thing. That 2018, we also participated in a dash to the finish line. Had our neon hats, and majority of the people who came to spectate also participated in that 5K. And I remember you, Matt, saying to me, Jackson, you can also run. I'm like, I'm not a runner. And you introduced me to Nike app. So just put this up and then you can go if you want to do 2018. I took it all seriously. I sat down and said, if I'm going to ask people to run for an organization I started and run, at least I can also try. My fear was I had heard that if you don't run a certain pace, the truck comes and takes you off the off the track. So I said, I cannot run that speed. Then I found out that as a charity runner, you actually don't have time limit. You can even walk from beginning to the end. So 2019, ladies and gentlemen, I threw my heart into the race and ran New York Marathon in 2019. In 2020, it was going to be the 50th anniversary of New York Marathon from when it started. And I was turning 50, so I said I will run this, but COVID came, that race was cancelled. However, I organized the people here in Michigan, and we ran virtually, ran a whole marathon in 2020. The 50th anniversary celebration then for New York Marathon came in 2021, and I went. My mama died in 2020, and ran the marathon 50th anniversary. Matt was there. I was selected to be among the 26 people interviewed on the track when you are running. Mile 12, they interviewed me. It was on ABC. I raised money. I think I raised 14,000 US dollars for my run. Mark Mahoney didn't think I would finish it. He bet a lot of money and I got it. I walked and ran, walked and ran, and walked and ran. Then when the marathon started being coordinated with Matt, we both realized Matt, a runner who got me to run, had not actually done it. So ladies and gentlemen, last year in 2025, Matt coordinated all 22 runners and he ran the race and finished it. We've had Martin Siegel run, we've had Andy Bryant of Siegel Family Foundation, we have had Karen out of Oregon. We've had teachers from Korea International School run. We've had a huge alumni, but over the years also we've had people who have committed to run every year for us. Matt Taylor, Mr. Captain of Nyaka team, we salute you, sir, and appreciate you. He's run 6 times for Nyaka. Every year, his company also matches the donations he did. Then he also went and recruited his brother, Keith, who's now run 3 times. And Keith, his wife, Florence, is now Nyaka's ambassador in Virginia. And their daughter, Rorin, who comes and cheers and makes signs. It's been such a labor of love. One woman, what? To her friend, Sherry Henry to George Hush, has now brought us all this full circle of runners loving to run. Every single year, there is a relative of Sherry Henry that runs in the marathon. First was Sarah, the grandchild, the wife of Garrett, the grandchild. They now have 4 children. Second, there was another relative. Now even Emil Jr. has run 3 times. She brings people, cousins, relatives from all over the country. This is one of her highlights, just like it is for us. But most importantly, we've raised more than, what's the total amount, Matt, over the
Over
years?
800,000.
800,000 over the years, all going to make an impact in the lives of people while people run and participate in something they love. So thank you, New York Marathon. Matt, thank you for rejuvenating our volunteers. Let's all pray for Mama Sherry to heal quickly and get back to New York so our 25 runners will have her blessings in November, first Sunday of November. The unique part about this, and I'll end with this, every year that people are running in New York, or when I was running in New York, in Uganda, Teacher Smith and two other, Alex and Jemba, and other volunteers, those three have been the consistent ones. Every single year when New York Marathon is running, they have run a full marathon in Nyaka village and finished. So much that, ladies and gentlemen, the only Ugandans who have Virtue New York Marathon medal are those gentlemen in Nyaka village running on behalf of grandmothers. The grandmothers go with their sticks, walk their mile, kids sprint 1 mile, but we have committed members every single year, even in COVID, who have run consistently and run for the cause. We have tried London Marathon. I did half a marathon in London. We tried Berlin. We've had Jessica, who actually wanted to run Berlin, ran Detroit. She's the one who originally ran Detroit for us with the Nyaka colors. She came and ran in New York. So it's been really, really, really amazing to see these runners, to meet their families, to to see the commitment. We've had a family where Scott, who's on the board now, Ren, Angie, his wife, Ren, their daughter, their son's girlfriend, Ren, their daughter, Ren, the entire family has run. And we will continue to do this. If you're a runner out there and you're looking for a sport, we have 25 spots in 2025. Matt has a waiting list of 50 people. So the highest people who can rent, and there are people who have walked. Lisa, 3 times now, walked from beginning to the end. Camila, my cousin, walked from beginning to the end. And now we have to get Mark Mahoney. I was tempted to run again. I was tempted, but the training is really gruesome. I continue. I love running. I lose more weight when I am running and introduced to me Strava. But we will let somebody else take that space and find a different challenge. I did Mount Kilimanjaro last year. So 2025, I need votes from online people. What challenge should I take on? And I want to keep those challenges going until I'm 60. 4 more challenges, then we'll see what to do. But New York Marathon, thank you. Matt, thank you for coordinating. Mama Sherry, Mark Mahoney, who made it happen. Noel, your beautiful wife, and your children and grandchildren. This is possible because of you. Now we have to get Mark and Noel to Nyaka 2025.
Absolutely. Love it. So like we said, we could go on and on the stories from the 25 years. Our 25-year anniversary event might be a 25-hour event that we're seriously considering, with all our spread across the world in all time zones, virtual and in-person events. But let's close today's conversation with just the vision for the future and talk a little bit about Nyaka's sustainability plan as getting more into social enterprises and what you envision for the next 25 years.
Woo-hoo! How old will I be if I live the next 25 years? Oh my God. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, the evolution of Nyaka again comes in this God's plan that He put to all of us to execute. We will bring you part of this history. You will see the logo from the beginning. You can see the logo we are using right now on Matt's hat. In between, we had another logo. So we have had 3 different logos. Think of a child, you were born, you drink your mom's milk, they put you on pounded food, you get to drink soup, then you hold the chicken leg and if you are vegetarian, the fake chicken leg. You get to where now you are a driving teenager. Nyaka is 25 years. In terms of human beings, you have graduated college. You are now driving, you are renting your first apartment, you are independent, and that's how we look at this evolution. It's getting to now where we have a bank, microfinance bank, that resulted from women's savings. Now we're looking at the future, innovation and sustainability. How do we move with the current trends? There's AI. Nyaka started, I told you, you didn't even have a reception in Nyaka. Now there's more per capita use of cell phones in our village than even the United States. There was no single iron roofed buildings in the area. You stand in Yaka, people have solar power, the roofs are green, they are red, they are all these fancy bricks imported from China houses in that area. That's an evolution that we don't talk about. Employment. 25 years of Nyaka work, we have never failed to pay our employees on every month, including COVID days. Huge. So when we look at the future, is how do we now take everything we have learned? And the other piece, Nyaka does not have a single debt. All assets we own, buildings, cars, computers, lab, clean water system, we paid for them. Donations, grants, uh, in kind, individuals, corporations, foundations, all of you contributors. $10, young people, older people. We are blessed that we don't have debt. As we go into the future, we see what we've created in Nyaka village with school systems and everything. But we saw one program that is needed in every rural area of Uganda and every rural area of the world. Grandmother's program, the women program, where we empower a woman not only financially but physically, emotionally, and financial. Financial education. My mother, who I love so much and told you about, died without making financial decisions. Patriarchy didn't allow her. The reason we are teaching these women is so they don't die without making that decision. You want to buy a bra and you can't choose the color of the bra you want to buy because you don't have money to buy it. You can't paint your nails the color you want because the man is standing there telling you what to do and don't waste my money. That's the freedom we are giving these women. Have makeup if you want to put on makeup for once. Women are born and die. I told Matt one time we need to run a campaign where we get a woman to have makeup. One day, just one day. Touch on, put on the brushes, maybe put some lipstick on and walk. We do it somehow. So we want to expand our programs into other rural areas. We want to go to other countries. Rwanda, we could use grandmother's program in Detroit, Michigan, in New York City. Rather than institutionalize children in orphanages, we want to put children in the hands of people who love and care for them in communities around the world. I am so much anti-orphanages. I never built an orphanage. I know in cities and other places where people have been saved because of those orphanages, but I'm a strong believer that a community coming together will care for children no matter where they are, as long as they know how to do it, and then they have the support system and government willingness to work with us. We want to sign more memorandums of understanding with ministries of education, gender, and community development is already done, healthcare systems. We got a grant from Levels of Change Thank you, levels of change, and all the people who made that decision to tackle women's health. Ladies and gentlemen, a woman gets a disease by using a toilet that is dirty or sitting and wearing underwear that is not dry because she must go to church and she has one pair. Whereas it walks 10 miles as a result, gets an infection. She can't tell anybody because if she says something is itching, the husband will beat her up. You slept with somebody. If she talks about it, it's taboo. We got a grant to address these issues: syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV, AIDS, high blood pressure, cervical cancer, all these things that are killing people every day that are preventable. We are now recruiting community health care workers to go and work with these communities. As they save money in the bank, we want to make sure that they will walk home and not have a heart attack going back home. If they are shaving their legs or their private parts and cut something, we want to make sure they have antibiotic to heal it and keep functioning. So we are not only building resilient communities, we are building healthy communities who will raise healthy children and therefore have healthy, responsible citizens of the world. That's our commitment to these communities, and we invite you, wherever you are, whoever you are, wherever you are located, to become a partner and an ambassador. You've heard this can't be done by just us. Your church, your professional community, your neighborhood, your magazine in your community, tell the stories and join us. We'll make an announcement for 25 years celebration, which we'll do now that we put it in words, in 25 hours. That way, whether you are in Australia or you are in China or you are in California or you are in Uganda, you will have a cycle of celebration because this is worth celebrating. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for committing to support. And if you ever get a chance, you, your children, your grandchildren, or relative, come to Nyaka, see it yourself. We are not making this thing up. It's real, it's there, and you can see it when you come.